Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham Blog and to another Tottenham transfer roundup as a domino effect comes into play tonight as Joe Rodon is set to join Stade Rennais in France, who Tottenham of course had a very interesting coming together with in the European Conference League last season. But we've heard for so long that if one of our centre-backs, be it Rodon, Tanganga or Sanchez, moves on this summer, the Tottenham are expected to make a move for another centre-back. So that is what I'm taking from this, but we will talk about this Joe Rodon deal. We'll also look at a potential offer coming from Barcelona for Sergio Reguilon, and we'll update you on all of the outgoings with Tanguy Ndombele, Giovano, Celso, and a couple of others hopefully on the way out of Tottenham this summer. Before we do get into that, if you are new to the channel, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell so you get notified every time we upload or go live. And look, let's dive straight into it. Let's talk about Joe Rodon. It's a very interesting move. It's one that, to be honest, I don't think anyone really saw coming, but Joe Rodon, according to Fabrizio Romano, is set to join Rennes in France. The deal is expected to be completed soon. The deal also includes a buy option worth £20 million. So, look, that's a lot of money for a player that, to be honest, is nowhere near the first team at Tottenham, is nowhere near the plans at Tottenham, and just hasn't been the player that we thought we had gotten in from Swansea. I think I said it a lot about the Bergwijn move and a couple of others in the last couple of years that we really hoped that it would have worked out better for us, but unfortunately it just hasn't. What we expected of the player didn't really materialise, and what we were hoping he could become for the team just didn't quite happen. And the feeling with me with Joe Rodon was always that you had managers like Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, Ryan Mason even, and of course Pochettino. Was he there under Pochettino? Even if he wasn't, there was managers, and now Conte, who spoke highly of Joe Rodon, who seemed to be fans of him, but never to the point that they were comfortable putting him in the first team. And the appearance for Joe Rodon that I always think of was when he played against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I think it was last season, or 2 seasons ago, and we drew 0-0. He did very well, but in the last minute, there's the impromptu intro that I always play. In the last minute, he nearly conceded a goal, making a mistake that allowed Olivier Giroud in on goal. So we had hoped for so much more from him, but it's just not going to happen. Pam Newland with the £5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Pam. I appreciate it. But it's just a move that is going to have a very big positive effect for Tottenham. And the line we kind of been hearing for the last Matt, you love that intro, don't you? The news that we've been hearing for the last week or two is that Tottenham needed to sell to buy, but not in the way in the past where we've had to sell to get in funds to be able to buy players. But at this point, we're actually in a situation where we needed to sell because our squad was full. We just didn't have room to bring in any more players, and that's why and that's why the majority of Tottenham fans feel that we're not going to get a centre back until one of these leave. We're not going to get a Maddison or a Zaniolo or a Paqueta until Ndombele, Celso and Harry Winks start leaving the club. And this has been a long time coming. I kind of would have hoped that these outgoings would have started before now, because the league for us starts in 9 days, and you would think that we are going to have another couple of signings potentially coming in before the league does kick off. So hopefully this is a start of something that we're going to see things kind of kicking on a little bit more. Ivan with the $2 super chat says, Maddie, nice to see you back on live. Thank you, Ivan. I do appreciate that. The other bits of news, it was Mike McGrath who actually broke this news first of all, saying Rennes have prioritised Tottenham centre-back Joe Rodon as a loan target. And this is a very weird move for 2 reasons. I thought Joe Rodon would do very well at a lower half Premier League team. I was kind of expecting him to join back up with Steve Cooper at Nottingham Forest, who, by the way, are doing incredible business this summer. Maybe a Bournemouth could have suited him. Some team down around that half of the table. If not, maybe a loan to the Championship. Maybe get that confidence back, back to where he was at his best with Swansea. But a move abroad is something I didn't really see happening. And to be honest, with British players, it doesn't happen all that often. I know Aaron Hickey did very well at Bologna, and maybe in years gone past with Michael Owen, Gary Lineker and players like that going abroad to do well. But in recent times, Jude Bellingham, Gareth Bale are probably the best examples of it. I can't really think of too many more. So in that regard, it is a bit of a strange move. But the weirdest bit is, like I mentioned, that coming together Tottenham had with Rennes in the Conference League last season, when we essentially got knocked out of the competition in court. And there's certainly a very bad relationship between the Tottenham fan base and the Rennes fan base. I got into an argument with quite a few of them on Twitter. But it is interesting to me that the relationship between the clubs was such that a move could actually happen and a move could go ahead. But look, it's one that is set to happen. Romano hasn't given the here we go, but said Rennes are set to sign him. And a buy option of €20 million for me, I would put that in the same bracket as the buy option that Lyon had for Tanguy and Dembele this summer, where it was just there for the sake of it. It was just there in case things went absolutely perfectly. I don't see Rennes paying 20 million for Joe Rodon at the end of next season. I don't see any club paying that, to be honest. But if it did happen, we would make a profit on the player, having only bought him for 15 million. So I wish Joe Rodon the very, very best of luck at Rennes, but definitely for selfish reasons, but also because I think he deserves to do well. He did try to make things happen as far as he did try to make it work, but it just didn't. And I'm looking forward to not having know him do you all over my timeline whenever he's mentioned. Josh Smith with the £2 super chat says us getting matters to help with the homegrown quota. Now I'm actually not sure if Joe Rodon counts as homegrown for the Premier League and Champions League. Now I know there are two different sets of rules for the two competitions, so it could be that he does qualify for the Champions League and not for the Premier League, or vice versa. But having developed at Swansea, because of course that's technically in Wales, in a different country, I'm not actually sure where he fits in that. If anyone in the chat knows, please do let me know. But the latest on James Maddison, there's really not much and nothing to shout about. Charlie Eccleshare said yesterday that Tottenham are downplaying rumours about James Maddison, but he is a player that they like. And Fabrizio Romano said a couple of days ago that there are currently no negotiations between Spurs and Leicester for Maddison, with the situation quiet so far. However, there is a good relationship with his agent. So again, if something is going to materialise there, I would expect it to be after a departure for Celso or Ndombele is finalised. We'll talk about where they're at a little bit later in the show, but spoiler alert, it's not great. Now the latest on Tanganga, we know for the last couple of weeks that AC Milan have been in advanced talks to try and bring Tanganga to the club on loan, and really the stumbling block so far seems to have been a disagreement between the two clubs on an option/obligation to buy and the value of that clause in the contract as well. Now Gazzetta dello Sport have said that AC Milan want to complete the deal for Tanganga by Sunday, so this is one that could be wrapped up by the end of this week. But I saw a report, I forget who it was from, but I remember it being reliable, where they said Tanganga at the moment is an option more than a main target for AC Milan. So there are other players potentially that they are looking at in that centre-back position. So Tanganga still might not happen. But with Joe Rodon going and Tanganga potentially on the way out as well, you would have to assume that Tottenham will make a move for another centre-back. It's what we've been hearing all along, that ideally Tottenham would sign two centre-backs this summer. We've already brought in Clement Longley, and I think the beauty of that Clement Longley deal, in a few different ways. First of all, he's a good player that suits Conte's style. Not as good as I would have hoped to have brought in that position, but the two best things about him, he can play centre-back, centre-back, or left centre-back, so it gives us a bit more freedom in who we could sign later in this window if we do move for another first-team centre-back. If the best deal we can get is for a left centre-back, well then Longley can move to the middle, or if the best deal we can get is for a centre-back, Longley can stay on the left. Then the extra added bit to that is the move for Longley is a straight up loan with no option or obligation to make that deal permanent next summer when the loan expires, where Tottenham are confident they can sign Alessandro Bastoni or Josko Vardiol. So the Longley is definitely a stopgap and does leave a lot of doors open for centre-backs that Tottenham could sign. And look, the name that is being mentioned by mainly fans again on Twitter is that of Milan Skriniar. The PSG move there seems to have fallen apart. They've gone in and signed Nordi Mukiele from RB Leipzig. Chelsea are apparently interested in Milan Skriniar after missing out on another player, Jules Koundé, completing his move to Barcelona. So there could be a potential tug of war on there, but I do think Tottenham will do their level best to sign another centre-back this summer. I don't want to say we will sign one, because ultimately it's not a massive priority at this point. As much as we would like for it to be a big priority right now, I think for the club it just isn't. So we'll keep an eye on what is happening there, and if Tottenham do go hard to try and get another centre-back. Now, one position where we certainly have more players than we need, which doesn't happen very often for Tottenham, is out in the left wing back, and the player that has been deemed surplus to requirements is Sergio Reguilon, only 2 years after joining from Real Madrid, and he could be going to to Real Madrid's arch nemesis in Barcelona. Gerard Romero, who is a tier 1 source for the Catalan club, has said that FC Barcelona are planning to launch an exchange offer for Sergio Reguilon. Now, he has clarified that it is purely a straight swap. There will be no cash involved. Memphis Depay is a player that they could offer, and Depay has been linked with Tottenham all throughout the window. It was back in April when Gerard Romero actually broke the news that Tottenham were interested, and I think he'd said that a bid could be imminent, which it, as we have found out since, it wasn't. But Barcelona, despite their financial problems, still having a very, very big window. And the interesting thing with this is Barcelona's last deal could potentially be the thing that offers them the most competition in trying to sign Sergio Reguilon. So they spent big money on bringing in Jules Koundé from Sevilla, who we know are interested in Sergio Reguilon, but up until this point haven't been able to complete a deal to bring him back, in order to bring him back, because they just didn't quite have the money. So with Koundé now going to Barcelona, both clubs could be open to making a deal happen there. Now, it is worth noting that Fabrizio Romano said a couple of days ago that as of now, Tottenham are not interested in signing Memphis Depay. So if Barcelona do make that offer, which is definitely possible, we've said all along that, you know, we don't know where Barcelona are getting this money from. Now, they have sold, I think it was 15% of their image rights of their TV rights for 25 years or something, so they've made back quite a bit of money from that, but still bringing in Lewandowski, Kessie, Christensen, Rafinha, Koundé, and now maybe trying to bring in Sergio Reguilon as well. And Depay, according to Romero, is one of the players that could be offered, but Tottenham fans are having the discussion of what other players could be offered. Now, one name I've seen mentioned, I see Asia in the chat there saying it as well, Frankie de Jong. I personally don't think anything will happen there, because the reason de Jong hasn't joined Manchester United yet is that he wants to stay. He wants to stay at Barcelona, so that is the biggest stumbling block for us. I can see why, from a Tottenham fan point of view, why Spurs may seem more appealing to de Jong than Man United. I apologize. I think there's having some tech issues here that are kind of distracting me. But I think we've seen it with Lisandro Martinez making that decision to go to Manchester United, and Anthony seemingly wanting to push a move from Ajax to Man United. It's because of Erik ten Hag. So I wouldn't be surprised if de Jong did have the option of United or Spurs. If that's what it came down to, I think he would choose Manchester United. But even then, it's not a position that Tottenham are prioritising at this point. A more kind of balanced, more defensive midfielder. Darkson G with the super chat says the Don has done his magic once again. Also, I love how Blues are going downhill at last. Also, we'll beat them at Stamford Bridge. No one wants to go to them. Absolutely, it's fantastic to see Chelsea's panic and all that. You know, so many of their players all going to Barcelona, really, to be honest. Hopefully we get into a bit of a tug of war with Chelsea soon, because I would like to see us win that if it did come to it. Now, I think what has happened, I've just realised that I think there's actually 2 streams on my channel right now, because I'm looking at comments for one, and it's very different to the comments that are coming in on my one here. So give me a second, and I'm going to see. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that has happened, but just give me a moment, and I will try and. There's 50 people waiting in the other stream, so I will try and get them over here to us. I'm really not sure what has happened there. But I'm going to put that link in that chat. I did get a warning when I logged into my software that there was issues. Click the link. Anyway, let's get back to it. There's another report on Reguilon from Calcio Mercato, who said that Fabio Paratici has offered Reguilon to Inter Milan. So who knows where Reguilon will end up. It does look as though his future is not at Spurs, but where it will be is a question that as of now is unanswered. But if I had to hazard a guess, I would say he'd go to somewhere in Spain. Who that's going to be, we'll have to wait and see. Now, another player who could be ending up in Spain is Giovano Celso. I was only discussing with a Spurs fan on Twitter a while ago how we haven't exactly made big money signings this window, but in the past they haven't worked out. And you look at our record signings, Tanguy Ndombele, Davinson Sanchez, who might still come good, Giovano Celso, it's Roberto Soldado up there, Moussa Sissoko. Lo Celso is just one of those big signings that really did not work out for us. And Fabrizio Romano has said that I'm going to try and fix this issue when I'm speaking. Fabrizio Romano said that Tottenham and Villarreal remain in talks for Giovanni Lo Celso, but are yet to agree a fee. And to be honest, if it's gone this long without a fee being agreed, I don't think Villarreal want him as much as perhaps we thought, to be honest, because he went there last season and he certainly did very, very well. He was a big part of that team that got them to the semi-final of the Champions League, ultimately being knocked out by Liverpool. And I would have thought that he would be a priority signing for them. And when you look at the next report from The Athletic, they say that Tottenham have placed a £17 million asking price for Giovanni Lo Celso. He's not going to be in the Tottenham team. He's not going to be part of our plans. But I don't think that's a lot of money to ask. I really don't. I think if this was the other way around, if Villarreal had paid 60 million for Lo Celso and it didn't quite work there, and we took him on loan, he did really well for us. I think 17 million pounds is money that we would pay. Now, I don't know the financial situation of Villarreal. I think maybe they'd been hoping to have a big departure this summer with Arnaut Danjuma was attracting interest from West Ham at one point. We heard from a tier 1 Villarreal source whose name I can't remember, the Pau Torres could potentially be on the way out. So maybe they were hoping they would have some money come in that way to allow them to make that signing of Giovanni Lo Celso. But it really just it's not materializing at this point. And I would ask the question, how much do they actually want him? How much are they willing to make that happen? Do Tottenham have to start looking elsewhere to try and get Giovanni Lo Celso off the books, which could allow us maybe to bring in a Maddison or a Zaniolo or a Paqueta? And Michael says, what financial situation makes them unable to pay 17 million? To be honest, the financial situation of European football clubs at the moment is something that really confuses me. The Barcelona one in particular. But I was on Last Word on Spurs, I think it was last week, with Jack Pipbrook from The Athletic, and he was talking about this massive swing financially and how all the money in football right now is in the Premier League. And I think you see that with West Ham bringing in Gianluca Scamacca, with Filip Kostic potentially going there as well. There's kind of mid-table Premier League clubs buying players from top-table European clubs, and it's been a while since we've really seen something like that. So there is a very odd financial dynamic within European football at this point, and it's partly Tottenham can benefit from that by being able to attract players from Europe, but also when we're trying to get rid of players that no club in England is going to want, it'll come back to bite us. And it's that balance that we start to maybe question how will it actually fare out? How will it balance out for Tottenham? And if we can't get Lo Celso off the books, if our business is done at this point, but maybe it's a negative for us when it comes to that. Martin with Super Chat, thank you so much, Martin. Really do appreciate that. Says Frankie wants to stay at Barca to get the 17 million he's owed. If he leaves, the contract is ripped up and they owe him nothing. He'd probably go to United. And I didn't realise that. So for anyone who's unaware, Barcelona are scumbags, and they owe a lot of their players a lot of money. And one of those players is De Jong, who was owed €17 million in unpaid wages. But what Martin is saying here is if he leaves, he doesn't get that 17 million. So essentially he's staying at Barcelona to get the 17 million euro that they owe him. That is absolutely outrageous. And to be honest, it's what you'd expect of Barcelona, but the fact that they're allowed to go out and sign the players they're signing, it's a bit ridiculous. And I even saw something that Rafinha and Koundé might not be registered in time for the new season because financially Barcelona just can't do it. It's a bizarre situation, and it's one that I'm happy if Tottenham stayed well away from that. Marlon, member for 2 months, says evening Maddie, come on you Spurs. Thanks a million for that, Marlon, for your support and being a member. Very good evening to you as well. Holly, great to see you in the live chat too. Some other reports on Lo Celso. Francesco Porzio, who you might know from Fabrizio Romano's live streams on Twitch, he has said that there are clubs from Italy and Spain who are interested in Giovanni Lo Celso. Villarreal are in direct negotiations with the midfielder who is top of Unai Emery's list. Alfredo Padula says that Napoli made first contact with Tottenham today regarding Lo Celso. Fiorentina are interested in the midfielder, but Napoli plan to sign him on loan with an option to buy. And I think Napoli is a name that we haven't quite heard mentioned yet, but it's they're talking about a loan with an option to buy, which, look, it suits Spurs because we get him off the books. But if Rodon, Lo Celso, and Ndombele, Tanganga, if all these players go on a loan with an option to buy, best case scenario, we get the money for all of them next season. We're kind of done this window. Worst case scenario, like what happened with Lo Celso and Ndombele last season, we end up in the situation again next year where again we're trying to get them off the books, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. So of course we'd all rather it be a permanent deal, but a loan is better than nothing. And the last report on him is that Corriere dello Sport say that Napoli have now joined the race to sign Lo Celso. Pianeta Milan actually also saying that AC Milan are amongst a host of clubs interested in Lo Celso. Now, the two other midfielders that we are hoping to get off the books, we have updates from Charlie Eccleshare. The first one is on Tanguy Ndombele, and Eccleshare has said there is nothing advanced for Tanguy Ndombele at the moment, and I believe it was Eccleshare who reported a couple of weeks ago that Tottenham and Fabio Paratici were in talks to try and get rid of Ndombele, but nothing has materialised just yet. And I tweeted out a while ago, I don't see a situation where Ndombele is not on Tottenham's books next season. For me, it's a guarantee, it's 100% certainty that Tottenham will be paying at least some of Ndombele's wages next season. We could still end up in a position where we're paying all of the wages. He's on £200,000 a week, and that's the stumbling block. That's the worst thing at this point, because no club is going to pay that for a player who doesn't care. You know, if we do manage to get a loan, it won't be back to Lyon. I think he's burnt his bridges there. If we do manage to get a loan to Spain or Italy or France, Tottenham could be paying, to be honest, I would expect us to be paying up to half of his wages, which is up to £100,000 a week. For me, he's on our books next season, no matter what happens. Let's just hope it's at the lowest price possible. Harry Winks, who I think will be off our books next season, Charlie Eccleshare said that Everton have backed off from Harry Winks. I wonder, was there a reluctance to go back into negotiations with Tottenham after the Richarlison ordeal? But Eccleshare also says there was interest from Leeds. However, that is not expected to go any further than Leeds, another club who I think are doing very, very good business this window. And their good business continues by opting against bringing in Harry Winks. On Bryan Hill, one of the promise signings of last summer, Charlie Eccleshare said that Bryan Hill would be allowed to leave on loan again this season. So there has been talk of maybe a permanent deal that would see Bryan Hill maybe go back to Spain. I think Sampdoria in Italy had been mentioned as well. But at the moment, Eccleshare is saying he will be allowed to leave on loan, which I think is probably for the best. Now, speaking of loan deals, and there's two that have been completed this week. The first was Troy Parrott, who signed a new contract with Tottenham until 2025 and subsequently completed a loan move to Championship side Preston North End. That was then followed by his fellow Spurs striker Dane Scarlett completing a season-long loan move to League One club Portsmouth. We wish them the very best of luck, and hopefully they come back in a couple of years as the best strikers that Tottenham have ever had out of our youth academy. But let's be honest, that is a little bit unlikely. Before I tell you all something very, 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 very important, I just want to run through a few incomings. We spoke about James Maddison. The news there, well, to be honest, I wouldn't really call it news, but the update there from Charlie Eccleshare was that Tottenham are downplaying rumours about James Maddison, but he is a player that they like. Fabrizio Romano also saying that currently there are no negotiations between Spurs and Leicester for Maddison, with the situation quiet. However, there is a good relationship with his agents. Now, that, important to mention, was a couple of days ago from Romano. On another one of our midfield targets, Nicolo Zaniolo, Charlie Eccleshare has said that Zaniolo is a player that Tottenham like, and he is on the list. And he said, in a direct quote, "He is the one that Spurs are probably the furthest along with, and even that's not especially far." So Eccleshare is saying, in terms of moves that we're trying to get done, Zaniolo is the furthest along, but it's nothing to talk about. It's nothing serious or nothing advanced. It's just the preliminary steps that have been made are the furthest along with him. On Lucas Paqueta, L'Equipe from France, has said that Tottenham and Manchester City are the most credible options this summer for Lucas Paqueta, who isn't particularly interested in Newcastle or Arsenal. They also said that Spurs had a €40 million bid rejected for Paqueta in January. And Alistair Gold has said that Spurs absolutely love Crystal Palace centre-back Mark Gahey. He is on their centre-back wish list. He may be one they look at next summer. Now, of course, Gahey only brought in from Chelsea last summer, so he still has, I think, 4 years left on his contract. A young English centre-back with a lot of time in the contract. Spurs would have to pay an arm and a leg to make that happen, so it makes sense, if it is one we wish to pursue, that we would wait until next summer to do so. Just one report from a lesser/unknown reliability reporter this week, and it's Tuttosport, who have said that Tottenham are serious about signing Nicolo Zaniolo and will show their determination to sign the player when Spurs play Roma this weekend. Of course, we take on Roma in Israel. Tuttosport have also said that Fabio Paratici is due to meet AS Roma's sporting director Tiago Pinto to find an agreement for the midfielder. hopefully Tottenham can make something happen there. Chris is saying, is Harry Kane staying or going, as I'm seeing him being linked with moves to either Chelsea or Bayern Munich? The latest on Kane is that he is open to new contract talks at Tottenham, and the club are expected to make an offer very soon. So I would not be surprised if there's a string of new contract announcements coming from Tottenham. Of course, Ben Davies signed a new contract earlier this week, I think until 2025. I would not be surprised if that's followed by a few more. There's mentions of Eric Dyer and Ryan Sessegnon, I think, maybe putting pen to paper. And if that all culminated with a Harry Kane contract, I wouldn't be surprised, but my God, I would absolutely love it. Look, that's pretty much your roundup. I apologise to the people who were caught over in the other stream there. I don't know what happened. The stream seemed to duplicate on the channel. So I'm glad if you found your way over. If you did and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But the key thing, the most important thing I need you to do is click the link that I'm about to put in the live chat, because I'm closing in on 10,000 followers on Twitter. So I'm about 150 out at the moment. I'm 155 away from 10,000 followers. Now there's nearly 600 that are here. If you can get me to 10k followers on this stream tonight on Twitter, I will give away a Spurs jersey with whatever name you want in the back, whatever badges, whatever home, away, third, alternate, one for 40 years ago, I don't care. If you can get me to 10k followers on this stream, I will do that. So I've put the link in the chat. I've pinned it to the top of the live chat as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer questions for about 10 or 15 minutes in the live chat. If you see a new name in there, you got to tell them to go follow me on Twitter. If you know someone, if you have a friend, if you have a family member, if there's someone that you hate but you know they support Spurs, tell them they need to follow me on Twitter, because if we get to 10k tonight, I will give away a Spurs jersey. So please do that. Let's have a look at the chat and see what people are asking, see what people want to know. People having debates about Ndombele. That'll continue. Ash says a bit worried with too many signings. That is a very legitimate worry to have, and I think it was on the Irish Hotspur last week. We were actually talking about this. With so many signings coming in, are they going to gel? Are they going to settle in? Are they going to Martin Mongan? Don't you dare! I swear to God. Are they going to settle in? Are they going to gel? Are they going to have the chemistry with the team? Are things going to work out with all these new signings? And to be honest, I said it on David's stream last week as well. For me, there's no chance that all 6 of these signings work out. There's no chance that all 6 of these signings are the players that Antonio Conte thinks he's bringing in, because by the law of averages, when you're bringing in a Perisic from the Serie A, you're bringing in oh my God, who do we sign? Longley from La Liga, Richarlison from a lower half team in Everton, Spence from the Championship, and Basuma making a step up into a bigger team. For me, the simple fact of the matter is they're not all going to work out. The hope is that maybe one will go wrong. Maybe one, it could be Perisic, it could be Spence, whatever it is, maybe one will go wrong, but then we still have 5 very good signings that we brought in. So it is a worry, but you would have to hope, and you'd have to assume that it will go well, especially when Pratici and Conte have put their heads together and decided these are the players to bring Spurs forward. Shah says maybe there's a miracle. Ndombele steps up and he becomes our creative player. And look, that is a conversation I've seen a few Spurs fans having, and for me, there's no chance. I don't even think Ndombele gets the chance to prove himself at Tottenham, because we saw such a monumental shift in everything from Tottenham at the end of the last transfer window. Look, we did well in the first couple of months under Conte. We had a bit of an iffy January. We had a terrible start to February. But with the likes of Ndombele and Celso out of that team, we saw a mentality shift. We saw a happier team. We saw a more confident team, a team that played for each other. And we never really got that with Ndombele and Celso. And as Kevin says there, at the moment, I don't think Ndombele is training with the first team. I don't see that changing. I really don't see that changing. If it's Conte's decision, the fear, and I think it was Jack Pipbrook that mentioned this first to me on the stream last week, the fear is that if Daniel Levy then intervenes, imagine it comes to the 2nd of September and Tanguy Ndombele is still a Tottenham player, Conte wants to freeze him out from that first team, but then Daniel Levy says, "Hold on a minute, I'm paying this guy £200,000 a week. No one wants to sign him after the poor loan spell he had at Lyon. The only chance of actually getting some money back for him is if he plays for Tottenham, plays well for Tottenham, and then we can sell him in the next window for a little bit more. And then he might force Antonio Conte to at least bring Ndombele back into the squad, to give him that opportunity to prove himself, and to give him that opportunity to show that he's learned from being frozen out of this Tottenham team once." Carl says, "What did Ndombele do that's so disrespectful?" We spent £65 million on him, and he's essentially thrown it back in our face. But the worst bit, the reason that for me, Ndombele can never wear a Tottenham jersey again, and the reason for a lot of Tottenham fans that he can never wear that jersey again, is what he did against Morecambe when he had an abysmal performance in the FA Cup against an EFL team. He was being subbed off, he was walking slowly, and the crowd started kind of getting on his back, and he started walking slower and slower, antagonising the fans, going straight down the tunnel. And I think from that moment we're never going to see that man don a Tottenham crest again, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I really, really am. Darkson G with the super chat says the training video so far looks positive and together, and that is something that I don't think happens with Ndombele in the squad. With Celso as well, people forget, and it was a very harsh headline. I think to some extent it wasn't really something that needed to be said, but there's a report. Again, I forget exactly who it was from, but I know it was one of Tottenham's best journalists, that Ndombele or Celso is hated within the Tottenham dressing room, and it's a very harsh word to use. Again, I don't really see the point of actually publishing that, but once we know that, it becomes very relevant information, and I don't think Celso was allowed back in there. And that positivity and togetherness that Darkson G is alluding to there comes from the fact that every Spurs player in that team at the moment wants to play for Spurs, wants to play with the players around them, wants to play for Antonio Conte, and they have a combined team goal to progress this club and to be the squad that ends what will be at least a 15-year trophy drought, to be the squad that puts us back in contention for a Premier League title, for a Champions League title. And I don't think Ndombele and Celso fit into that. I really don't. And to be honest, I'm fine with that. I think I have a kind of vested interest more than most for personal reasons with Ndombele and Celso, because it was the first transfer window that I covered on this channel. With the first transfer I covered was Jack Clarke, so I was heartbroken to see him go. But the other three in that summer of Ndombele, Celso, and Sessegnon, I was just kind of hoping that it could be an omen. You know, the first window I cover, all the players do well. Of course, that hasn't worked out, and it certainly won't. But yeah, the two of them need to go. The two of them do need to go. Bobby K says, big up Maddie for all the work he puts in the show. Bobby, thank you very, very much for that. I really do appreciate it. With super chat as well, says, really appreciate you taking the time for us, Maddie. Bobby, absolute pleasure. It really was. Anyone, if you haven't seen, I did a show with Bobby and the three Spurs boys yesterday. It was out today. Just chatting all things Spurs and having a fantastic laugh. And Paddy from Limerick Spurs was on there, and he made two children cry at two separate points. So I do recommend. Bobby, I think you're a mod, so you can throw the link in for the stream if you want in the chat. Everyone, I would recommend you go and check that out. Gonna have a quick look in at Twitter, and to be honest, I'm disappointed in you guys. I'm disappointed. We've only got 15 new followers on Twitter. So at 580 here. The link to my Twitter is at the top of the chat. I'm going to put it in again. I'm going to give you another opportunity. Like I said, if we get to 10k on this stream, which maybe is a bit of a big ask, but if we get to 10k on this stream, I will give away a Spurs jersey. And who doesn't want a free Spurs jersey? Come on. It's a beautiful jersey. If you want, I will take the away kit out of that, just in case you're worried that you might end up with that abhorrent away kit. So go follow me on Twitter, and you might get a free Spurs jersey in it. What other questions have we got? Merciful Hammy says, Ndombele is fat and slow. Yeah. Free the right side says, Ndombele doesn't need a last chance. He's in 200k a week, spent 3 years doing very little and being lazy. Get lost and be someone else's problem. My thoughts exactly. Kevin says, what a window to start your channel on. Seems so good at the time, but look how bad it has turned out to be. Absolutely. And to be honest, I think that's the reason that my channel kind of really grew at the start, because everyone was so optimistic, everyone was so happy with spending 60 on him, 50 on the Celso and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately it was an absolute calamity. Stephen says, the Irish Hotspur is adamant about bringing in a centre back. Is that a bigger need than an attacking midfielder? Who's left at centre back? First of all, everything the Irish Hotspur says is true. Everything he says is right. He's an absolute legend. But yeah, I'm adamant about bringing in a centre back, and I think the club are too. Like we said, the news we got all along, especially from Alistair Gold, only as recently as a couple of days ago, is that if Tottenham do get rid of Rodon, Tanganga, or Sanchez, that we would then move for another centre back. And all along, it's been ideally we would get two centre backs. And now with Joe Rodon going to Rennes and Tanganga potentially on his way to AC Milan, you would have to assume that Tottenham will make a move for a centre back. Now that move for a centre back could be delayed by the fact that we're still trying to get a lot of players off the books. And I saw a tweet from Tottenham Tears resurface on Twitter today. By the way, if you're not following Tottenham Tears, follow them instead of me. You get better value from that. And it was saying from Alistair Gold last summer when he said Paratici has a history of not really being able to sell players, and we kind of saw that in January when he ended up loaning a lot of players out, and we could potentially be seeing that again. So look, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where this is going to go, but if we're losing Rodon, well, not losing, but if we are getting rid of, see, that sounds harsher. If we are selling or loaning Rodon and Tanganga, we need another centre back. And again, it's been a case of needing to get rid of players to bring them in, not for financial reasons, but ultimately just to have space in that squad. So with these materialising, I'm kind of hoping that we will see, we'll see something happen soon. But who really knows? Martin says, you said that Ndombele burned his bridges at Lyon. What happened? Just the poor spell. He's just really bad. he was just the player that Tottenham decided was no good for a first team in the first place. I think Lyon kind of had that feeling, I can change him. It's like it's different with me sort of thing. And he went back and he started out very well. I think he scored against West Ham in the Europa League, but it just fell apart. And I think in hindsight, they're probably laughing at themselves for having a 60 million buy option in that loan deal in January. And I don't see anything happening there. And to be honest, I don't think Celso or I don't think Ndombele will go back to Lyon, because he seems to have this mindset that he deserves to go to a top Champions League club. I think there was a report that said he wouldn't leave unless it was a step up, unless he goes to a better club than Spurs, which it's absolutely comical. I mean, he's an embarrassment. He's an absolute embarrassment to, first of all, to our recruitment team, but to himself, that he can't see that he is the reason his career is falling apart. He has had so many chances to turn things around at Tottenham, and he wanted to leave after the first summer, so clearly he's not that resilient in trying to turn this around. At the first sign of trouble, he wanted out. So look, I don't know what he thinks is happening, but he certainly won't be right. Ivan says, I was confused seeing you here and with Bobby K live. That was a pre-record from last night, a fantastic show. I really, really did enjoy it. So make sure to go and check that out. I'm just going to have a quick look on Twitter, see if anything's happened while we are live. I doubt it has, though. A nice quiet Thursday night. That's good. Alistair Gold has said that Antonio Conte has been handed a boost with Ben Davis returning to the Tottenham squad for Saturday's pre-season friendly against Roma. There was concern that he'd missed the start of the season with that injury he got. He picked up in pre-season, but he's back in the squad, which is very, very good news. We'll take one more question. Derek says Ndombele isn't fat. I'm fat and very, very slow. I am too, Derek. I am too. It's the best way to be. Kevin says, thoughts on De Vrij? Seems easier to get than the other inter centre backs and fits the centre back role perfectly. I don't think De Vrij would be the right kind of profile of player that we're looking for, because to be honest, right now I think we're looking for a backup to Eric Dyer. I don't think we're looking for a replacement or an improvement on Eric Dyer. And I would have laughed 18 months ago at the thought of saying this, but I'm absolutely delighted that we're not looking to improve on Dyer, because he was so good last season. He was so good, even the season before under Jose, when things were really quite looking bad. He had his moments, losing a header to Ivan Cavallero to draw away to Fulham was not one of his finest moments, but he's really come on in the last couple of years, especially last season. Antonio Conte said he could turn him into one of the best centre-backs in the world. I don't think it'll go that far, but I think he is very important to what we're doing right now, and he's a leader. He's the commander out in that pitch, and that's very important. So let's hope that continues. Martin says, amazing. Spurs fans can finally see Dybala play against Roma on Saturday. Yeah, it blew my mind that Dybala is 28. I feel like he's one of those players, kind of like Jesse Lingard, where everyone just thought he was still young. There's players like Dybala's 28. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is 26. I could have sworn he was 18. But yeah, look, that's a very pointless conversation for another day. Well, look, thanks very much everyone for tuning in. There are 2,000 of you. I'm sure there was another couple of hundred over at the wrong stream. I do apologise for that. Blame Streamlabs. It wasn't my fault. Do make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. We're only on 180 likes with over 600 watching. So make sure to smash that like button. I'm sure we can get that number to 250. And it doesn't look like we're going to be giving away a Spurs jersey anytime soon, because I've been very, very disappointed with the turnout on Twitter. We've only got 19 new followers. Look, I'll forgive you all. Thank you everyone who did tune in. Thank you for the continuous support. Thank you to our new subscribers. There's only been a handful, but again, I forgive and forget, and we all move on. Bobby says 300 likes before Maddie runs off. That is ambitious, because we're on 197 and I'm leaving now. But I appreciate the sentiment, Bobby. I really do. I'll talk to you soon, Bobby. Again, thanks a million for having me on that show last night. But from me, for now, and as always, thank you so much for watching.